When I start my tree ring, I like to make sure I trowel the end if I can. You want to do a wheelie on this, like we talked about in another video. I didn't get it up high enough, so I'm gonna have to fill this in a little bit, but better off doing the end and getting that nice and smooth. I can see that's gonna be a little low, so I'm gonna have to probably fill that up just a little bit when I come back around with the machine. Little cracks right here, going around there. Most of those are gonna close up. If I do trowel this the first time, and I do have some cracks that are still open, I'll go ahead and chop and fill those. This is a really good mix. You're gonna want this, you know, a tree ring a little bit wetter if possible. It's gonna be easier to trowel that way. Make sure you get some piss on there. Your backside is gonna be compacted pretty well because it's a pinch point as you're going around the circle. It's the front side that's gonna be the most issue. So when you do this, make sure you put some good pressure down on the front side of the curb with your fingers. Roll your knuckle on the top, and you can get both the top and the bottom at the same time as you go around. I'm going to take my finishing trowel now, and that'll close up any little extra ones that might still be there. It should come out really smooth. If you do have any pulling or any cracking in there, obviously you're going to want to trowel that again. So that's a little bit more important to have a little bit wetter mix than normal, and you can get those to run around there pretty good. What we'll do is when I finish off this end, we'll make sure we step back and take a look at this from every angle to make sure that it looks round, and we can do any adjusting that we need, and then we can go ahead and cut our joints. I got a line that's drawn on the inside. I had my son paint the lines on these. They made them a little bit too tight. We don't ever go any closer than a 3-foot radius from the base of the tree. This one here might be a little tight actually anyway. When that tree grows, you know, 5, 10, 15 years from now, if it gets a really big base on that, those roots could start pushing the curb up. And it's just one of those things where you want to protect yourself on. We have a minimum on a tree ring. It's a 25-foot minimum, which is going to get you a 3 to 3.5 foot radius to the outside of the curb. That's what we charge on them all the time, no matter if they want them smaller. And we don't typically do them any smaller than that just because of safety's sake in the future. I'm going to show you the end of this. See this 1 foot straight line right there? That's when you stop the machine, you pick the machine up. That's going to be basically the mold, so it's going to be straight. So what you're going to have to do when you come back around, basically you're going to have to pull that out to get it to be round again. Now what you can do when you start on the tree ring is actually put that curve in with the curve machine, and I'll go ahead and show you that in a little bit on another ring. But when you get to the end and when you pull the machine back, you're going to have that straight line, so you're going to have to pull that out. I want you to notice something here. When I started this tree ring, you know, you want to try to do a wheelie so you can get that curb to be a little bit taller in the front when you come back around, because when you come back around, it's going to be the height of the actual mold. Okay, I didn't do it as much as I should have. So this curb that I just ended with is probably about 1 inch higher than the curb that I started with. So I'm going to have to feather all that out and level it off. If I did a better job with that at the beginning and lifted the machine up and let it pump out a little bit longer, it would have been the same level, and it's just less handwork for you. Probably going to need to hand pack this a little bit, feather this out right here because it's going to be a little bit low. Do a light pack first in case you ever need to move the concrete, because it's a tree ring. You want to make sure that you got it round. So I don't go really heavy on my pack. I'm just trying to get my line. Fill in the top and try to make sure that it's somewhat level before you really start hand packing it hard. I can step back and take a look at that just a little bit and know that this is got to move in just a little bit. It's going to be easier to move because you haven't hand packed that really hard. Is that pretty close, Chance?
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'll do is, I haven't even sprayed anything on that yet. I'm gonna go ahead and hit that with some piss, because I don't want to work that hard. Too old. I'll start back here where I stopped. Again, pressure in with your fingers, down with your knuckle, and you can get both the inside and the out and the top, and just feather it out. Sometimes it's good to have an extra guy there taking a look at it from a distance. I can tell right now that's a little low right there. And so I can just kind of, you know, feather that, smooth it out, feather it in, and try to see where I'm at. You're not going to get a tree ring perfect. Somebody that looks at it from one angle might see something and not see it from another angle. Some people are a little bit more meticulous than others. Obviously you want to try to get it round, but it's not a perfect system. So we'll take a look at that real quick here. So if you look at that from every angle and you step back a little bit, again, we want to see this from the sidewalk, from the street. That's where people are going to look at it from. You know, overall that looks pretty decent. Now we'll look at this backside, and for the most part that looks pretty good. Level is pretty decent. What I'll do now is I'll spray that whole thing with some more piss, and I'll go over it with a finishing trowel to make sure it's nice and smooth, and we'll go ahead and do our joints. You have good mixes, you got the right chemicals in there. You shouldn't even have to get on the ground to trowel it. It should be pretty easy. Should be able to get pretty smooth. You always want to put a joint where you hand pack. It's going to be a weak spot. I know that's right there. On a circle this small, I would go ahead and just split the difference every time, so I get my joints even. So I don't have some joints at the end smaller than others. I would just split the difference every single time. Now, if you noticed on that one, I went ahead and I did a pretty good wheelie with that. It was hard for Chance to get his foot all the way forward, but I did a pretty good wheelie, so that should be pretty close to the same level as we come back through. So it's going to be a little bit easier for me to trowel. Also, so I can get this initial curve, because remember, the front of your machine is a foot long. It's going to be straight. So if you just start straight and go, this is going to be a straight piece right here, and I'd have to pull it back. If you pull your machine out just a little bit and have your foot here, once you lift it up and it starts to actually come out, crank that wheel as hard as you can to get it back in line, and you'll get that curve in there. Now think about centrifugal force here. The machine wants to go straight, you're trying to get it to make a curve. You put your knee here, you can prevent this from going out. And if you really need to, you can use your knee to help push it in. Another thing too is to make sure you turn your hand under. Don't go over the top with your hand. Get it under, so in case you need to actually pull it along, if it gets stuck, lift a little bit along with pushing in. That's going to help you. If you put your hand on the top, natural, your natural reaction or whatever else is to actually push down. So it's actually going to be harder for that to make the turn now. So if you turn your hand underneath and lift and pull, you can get that to go around the circle much easier. Now, you notice the 1 foot straight? Okay, so we'll have to pull that out. Not gonna be that difficult, but that's what we're gonna have to do. Okay, so I gotta go ahead and I gotta pull this over and make sure I get this rounded. Okay, I always make sure that the guys put enough here in case I need to do a little extra work. You can really see from this angle that I did a pretty good job of lifting that machine up. I don't have to feather that back that much. So it should be pretty easy to trowel. Easy to get round. Have to do a little bit of adjustment on that, but overall looks pretty good.